Well, hello, everyone. My name is Eva Marie Everson. I'm the director of Florida Christian Writers Conference. And to my left or right, I'm not sure, is.
I'm Taryn Souders, and I am the co-director of the Florida Christian Writers Conference.
And we are so excited because today we are joined by Lori Hatcher, who will be, there you go, with that passive voice again, Eva Marie, who will give us a 8-hour class this year at the Florida Christian Writers Conference. Last year, I think you spoke on writing nonfiction. Is that correct, Lori?
That is correct.
And this year, you're going to head up our speaker track.
Yes, I'm so excited about that.
I am too. So now that I'm like defrazzled because I threw myself into passive voice, which is that internal editor. First, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, Lori, if you will.
Okay. Well, I am a transplanted Yankee who spent the first 15 years of my life in a little town in a little state, Bristol, Rhode Island. And then God had mercy on my soul, and he brought me through the blizzard of 1978, brought me to Columbia, South Carolina, where I have been happily living ever since. I have a passion for nonfiction writing, which led to leading the nonfiction track last year at Florida Christian Writers Conference. I've written 3 or 4 or 5 devotionals, the most recent ones with Our Daily Bread Publishing. We're in the middle of developing the Refresh Your Faith series. So far we have Refresh Your Faith. Coming out in March is Refresh Your Prayers, and I'm working currently on Refresh Your Hope, 60 unshakable reasons not to lose heart.
Yeah.
But I also have a passion for speaking, because I know that we cannot separate writing from speaking. As much as we introverted writers would like to stay in our cave and never emerge and just communicate with the world through our fingers, our writing often opens up opportunities for speaking. And so very early on, I discovered that you can't separate the two, and we have to push out of our comfort zones and learn to communicate our messages in more than one way. So I'm a trained Toastmasters International speaker. I'm a Christian Communicators graduate and a She Speaks graduate. So I've spent a lot of time learning how best to communicate that message that God gives us through the written and the spoken word.
That is so wonderful. And I'm so glad that you brought this up and you said something about nonfiction, and you didn't necessarily talk about fiction or even children's book writing, but that's where Taryn and I are going to come in, because I'm gonna just divert this over to Taryn very quickly. Taryn writes for children, and yet she speaks at schools, etc. So Taryn, talk about why that is so important then to have that skill of speaking as well as writing when you're a children's book writer.
Absolutely. I mean, no matter what you write, there is an audience for you to speak to. And I know one of the benefits of being a children's writer is that we are able to go into schools and speak about the writing and the publishing process. And it's a great way to supplement your income. Mainly, it's one of the main reasons I do it, because I know people think, oh, I'm going to be a writer and I'm going to be so rich like J.K. Rowling. And it's like, no, you make 8%. If you do traditional publishing, which is what I do, you make 8%. Okay. That's like, maybe 60 cents per book sold. So you don't make a lot with the books. You can make some money when you go to speak. And so that's what I love to do it. There's so much energy and just so much fun, particularly with kids. So that's one of the things that I really look forward to doing. So absolutely having those skills of having a message that you want to present, no matter what your audience is, learning to adapt it to your audience, learning how to read an audience and know, okay, this was my plan, but because of a situation I'm seeing brewing over here, I need to switch tactics. And that's a skill you have to develop. It doesn't necessarily come naturally. Maybe speaking doesn't bother you, but you still have a lot you might need to fine tune in order to get your message across.
I'm glad she mentioned that, Lori. She mentioned the fact that, you have to learn to read your audience, and you also have to learn to like shift all of a sudden, like up, I got to remove this and I'm going to have to plant this and I'm going to have to cut that. And I was in a situation one time when I was asked to speak, and the person in front of me went way over their time and I was bumped up against the lunch hour. So my 50 minutes ended up being 7.5. Now you talk about having to cut a whole bunch of stuff, but I somehow managed to get up and say what I had to say in 7.5 minutes. Now, on that note, I do want to go back to the whole fiction thing, because, we so often hear you have to have a platform to be a writer today. You have to have a platform. And then fiction writers say to me, well, what kind of platform do I have? Well, then let's take, for example, if I wrote a book about my latest book, Dust, which is my feelings on the fact that it is the most ordinary lives that leave the most extraordinary fingerprints on the earth, that you don't have to find the cure for cancer to be an important person here on this earth. So if I was asked to speak and I'm wanting to sell my book Dust, then I'm going to speak on those types of topics. I'm not going to talk about the book as much as I'm going to talk about that particular subject. So then circling back, Lori, what are some of the things that you will teach in this 8-hour course?
Well, because speaking is terrifying to most human beings, we even have scientific data that proves that. I want to make this speaker's track as practical and as painless as possible. So there's a body of knowledge that the average person just doesn't have. And because I've been in the speaking world for almost a decade, more than that informally, there are just a lot of things you learn as you come along. And I want to share those life hacks or speaker life hacks so that people don't have to go through 10 years of experience to get them. Just some of the things that I wish somebody had taught me. Now, I did receive excellent training, so the learning curve was easier for me through Toastmasters International and through Christian Communicators and all the other Speak Up, all the great conferences I've been a part of. But I want to teach people, first of all, I want to convince them that you really do need to be comfortable speaking. Even if you don't like it, you have to have those skills, why it's important for writers to be speakers. And then I want to help people zero in on their message, like you mentioned, and Taryn also. How do I adapt my writing and create a message that will resonate with people, that will bring value to people, that won't just be entertaining, because we're Christians and we're called always to give a reason for the hope that lies within us. We want to weave that Christian worldview into our speaking, whether we're talking about a secular topic or a spiritual topic. So I want to teach people how to present that message as effectively as possible. That comes through, how do I dress? How do I move? How do I tailor a message for a different group? And then if we're going to be realistic, there's the business side of speaking. How do I even start a speaking ministry? How do I get people to invite me to come and speak? Do I need a contract? When do I start setting speaker fees? What questions do I have to ask of event planners? How do I get invited back? All those business aspects of speaking. And then finally, we really just want to practice in a very small way, speaking in front of a group, to give us a chance to fine tune a small message, maybe that we can use for a YouTube commercial or a snippet on our blog or a trial sample speech for an event planner. So we're going to do a little bit of that too, but I hope that won't scare people away, because if you're in a speaking track, eventually you got to speak.
Yeah.
But it's a friendly group. We're going to offer constructive criticism, and it's just going to be very, very empowering and very, very practical, because I've had 1,000 questions and I want to help answer some of those questions.
Yes, that is, I'm so excited about this. And I'll tell you, everyone who's listening, the reason I asked Lori to lead this track this year is because a couple of 3, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago, time has a way of just getting away from us. I was at an event where Lori was one of the speakers, and I was sitting in the audience waiting on my turn to be a speaker. And I was so impressed with Lori's just everything about the way she presented what she had to say, from the inflection of her words to the way she stood, her command of the stage, her command of the audience. And I just felt like I was drawn into every word that she said. So I knew number one, that Lori was trained through Speak Up, and she was trained through Toastmasters, and Toastmasters would never go, but they would get zapped. And she and I were, you and I were both part of the Litauer training, were we not? Didn't you mention the Litauer training?
Well, I have not been part of that, but I have done Christian Communicators with Vonda Skelton.
Okay, Christian Communicators with Vonda Skelton, which was, I think, kind of a break off from the Litauer training, because that was earlier on, and then Vonda did the Christian Communicators. You're correct on that.
Right.
And so anyway, these were really great training grounds for Lori, and so she's going to bring all of that to the speaker track at Florida Christian Writers Conference. We're so excited that you're coming back again this year, Lori, and we thank you for sharing some of the things that you shared with us today about the speaker track. For those who are thinking, am I ready for this? Should I do this? Hey, if you feel like you've already got a grip on, your craft, now is the time to step it up and come to the speaker track. This is for you. Remember, this is an old saying, but writing and speaking go together like a hand and a glove. Been hearing that for 20 some odd years. Lori, is there anything else you want to add before we say goodbye?
Eva Marie, I'd like to share what my personal goal was, and the reason I pursued speaker training, because I think it will resonate. I hope it will resonate with those considering attending the speakers track. And that was, I never wanted the message that God had given me to be hindered by my delivery. I didn't want anything that I could do differently to cause people to stumble over the precious and priceless and life-giving message that God has given each of us as Christian communities. We're all Christian communicators. We're either going to do it well or we're going to do it poorly. And I think we owe it to ourselves and to the Lord to be the best communicator we can be. So that's my goal, is to help the Florida Christian Writers Conference Speakers Track attendees to be the best communicator for the glory of God that they can be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Taryn, do you want to add anything else before we go?
No, I just think, I think you guys should go. I remember taking a speech class in college because it was a requirement. It might still be, I don't know, but everyone was required to take speech. And I remember thinking, I am never going to use this speech class at all in my life, because at that point, I don't remember what major I was on, but it was not what I ended up graduating with. I think it was like graphic design or something. I don't need to take speech, but I was required. So I took it. And then of course I ended up becoming a teacher, which you stand up and speak in front of people all day. And then I ended up now I've probably done over 120 school visits since I started writing. I've spoken in front of audiences of 1,300 kids at a time. I'm really glad I took that speech class. And if you guys have an opportunity to learn from a speaker as wonderful as Lori, I really think you should go.
I agree. And let's,
Eva Marie.
yes.
I'd like to add one more thing, and this was an interesting part of the process of securing an invitation to write for Our Daily Bread Publishing. As my book proposal was making its way through the different committees, when my editor, the wonderful Dawn Anderson, used to be at Kriegel, now at Our Daily Bread Publishing, one of the things she asked for me as she was preparing to bring my proposal to Pub Board was for a list of speaking engagements last year and ones that were upcoming. And I don't know what swung the decision in my favor, but I know that a list of speaking engagements was an important part of that.
Yes,
That
it really
selection.
is.
Yeah.
You're right. It is a very critical part, especially for nonfiction writers. And I did want to add very quickly to what Taryn said. I've seen Taryn in front of school kids as well. Seen Lori, I've seen Taryn in front of school kids, and you talk about a tough audience, but she absolutely had them in the grip of her hand. It was just an amazing thing to watch, how she was able to grab these kids and hold on to them and teach them. It was a wonderful thing to be a part of, as well as how wonderful it was to sit and listen to Lori speak several years ago. And I've actually now heard her more than once, but okay, listen, word-weavers.com/Florida events. That's going to take you to our registration page. And you can find out more also about the faculty. Go to the faculty page. You can look up Lori. You can look up her class. You can find out more about it there. If you haven't registered, you're going to want to go ahead and register as soon as you can. Our numbers are going up, 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 up. And as you know, when we run out of space, we run out of space, and that's it. So if you haven't already signed up for the conference, we hope you will soon. Thank you again, Lori. Thank you, Ms. Taryn, and we'll see you next time.